Okay, so this week, week 6, we're gonna get into chapter 5 this week. We've been in chapter 4 for a little while where we were focused on modeling furniture. But in chapter 5, we're gonna learn how to import different types of files and use those to draft and model various spaces. So today we're gonna look at importing a raster file, which is just an image. And we're gonna combine it with drafting from a sketch. And then next week we'll import an AutoCAD file to model from, so we'll see kind of the differences between those two. I'm gonna say on the recording just real quick, even though I told everybody in this room, just in case anybody that's not here that's listening to the recording later. 2 weeks from today, October 9th, we're not gonna meet for class. I'll still have an assignment, I'll have a recording posted to Canvas, but I'm out of town, so we will not meet on October 9th. We'll still meet next week, just not the 9th. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the reading first before we get into our assignment. Just use this same one from earlier. Okay, so the very first thing to know is that SketchUp can import JPEGs, PNGs, TIFF files, bump files, lots of different raster types of files, and raster just means that it's an image that's made up of pixels. Raster files can be large, and they might start to slow down your model if you start to get too many image files. So when you import an image, you probably want to clean it up a little bit first. If you only need like one small section of an image, go ahead and crop that image down before you bring it into SketchUp. You can further keep the file size down by primarily using JPEGs and PNGs. They're compressed and smaller than TIFF files and bump files, which I don't really know if anybody in here is really working with TIFF and bump, so JPEGs and PNGs are more common. And they're smaller file sizes, which is good for SketchUp. You may know this from Photoshop, if you're familiar with Photoshop, but PNG files preserve the transparency of an image rather than importing a white background, so maybe just keep that in mind if you're importing different types of images. And then once you import an image, it is permanently part of the model. So if you're familiar with AutoCAD or Revit even, you can import things and they come in as XREFs, and you can constantly keep on updating those, relinking them. SketchUp, there is no such thing. Once it's in, it's in. If you want to update it, you have to delete it, re-import the new one. Unfortunately, it's not very smart for keeping your files up to date. And the textbook goes over a few other important concepts that I want to touch on. The first is flashing planes. So let me just model something here real quick so that we can see what that means. Get a scenario here, but sometimes you'll see SketchUp has two surfaces right on top of each other, and there's kind of like a flashing that happens. The two surfaces are kind of fighting for that same space. This is called Z fighting. And again, that happens when two surfaces are right on top of each other, and SketchUp just isn't quite sure which one to display for you. So if you start to notice that, if I come across it in tonight's lesson, I'll go ahead and show everyone. I thought I'd be able to mimic it here for us. But it doesn't want to do it. So usually whenever it happens, right now I've got two surfaces right on top of each other, one of them part of a group, one of them, oh there you go. Now it's working for me. Okay, so see how those are kind of like flashing against each other? that's what that is, that Z fighting. That just tells you that there are two surfaces occupying the same space, and SketchUp is trying to display both of them at the same time. So whenever you see that happening, that means you've got two surfaces right on top of each other. So usually you don't want two surfaces fighting right on top of each other. So maybe to fix it, we might give this surface a push-pull, just give it a little bit of depth, like maybe you've got a rug right on top of your floor or something and those are fighting each other. Just give your rug a little bit of thickness. That'll take great care of it. Now it's not doing that Z fighting anymore. So SketchUp just doesn't like when two surfaces are right on top of each other. Let's see here. We've touched on this previously. Every surface has a front face and a back face, right? The front face was also called the normal, and by default it's white. And then we've got a back face. Let me flip around to the bottom here, and the back face is usually like a grayish blue color by default. Usually you want your front faces visible. One, it just kind of looks nicer to have all the white sides facing out, so your model looks a little bit more uniform. It's not a huge deal if you've got your faces mixed up. The only reason it would ever come into play is if you are going to be exporting your model to some other type of program. So if you were exporting to maybe a DWG file to be able to put it into CAD, DWGs only recognize the front face of geometry. Since you're going from a 3D to a 2D, it's got to read either the front face or the back face. It's going to read the front face. So if you've got a back face facing out, it's not going to be able to read that. Same thing with some rendering softwares that are out there. It'll only be able to recognize the front face. So for our purposes in this class, not a huge deal, front face versus back face, but just know down the line in the future, if you're exporting to certain softwares, that software might want you to have the front face sticking out. If you run into a scenario where your back face is the one sticking out and you'd like it to be the front face instead, you can fix that. You can select the surface, right-click, and hit reverse faces. So now it's turned that bluish gray. Now my back face is facing up. So if that ever happens to you, right-click the surface, reverse faces. Now I'm back to the normal side being up. Let's see here. We're also going to be introduced to the 3D warehouse today. So we've been learning how to make components, we've been modeling our own furniture, but we don't always have the time to create these custom pieces, or we are looking for something very specific, maybe from a certain manufacturer. So the 3D warehouse is a platform of components that are created by anyone that you can download into your model. You can basically be using other people's components that they've created. Components are uploaded by the SketchUp team, also uploaded from maybe companies who manufacture and sell different products. They want you to use their products in your model, so they go ahead and create components for you. Or just individual users like us. If we all become power SketchUp users and we create the fanciest little components out there, you can go ahead and upload that and share it to everybody, and they can be using the cool chair that you made.
We should have done that at the time. Cool.
We'll do it now. I wanted you to learn how to create them first before we go and start using other people's. So anybody with a Google account can contribute, because SketchUp is owned by Google. Well, it was originally owned by Google, now it's owned by Trimble, but still, if you have a Google account, you can use it. You don't necessarily have to have SketchUp software downloaded to be able to go look at the 3D warehouse. So on the 3D warehouse, you'll find replicas of entire buildings, brand name furniture, fixtures, equipment. Aside from any branding or logos, all the content is free, reusable, editable. When you bring in a model from the 3D warehouse, you're also bringing in all of its layers and data, so just be aware of that. If it's a super complex component that someone has created, it might have a lot of data with it, and so it might start to slow down your model if you get a ton of complex geometry in there. So there are 3 ways that we can get to the warehouse. Let's go ahead and take a look. The first, if you don't even have the SketchUp software, you can get there from the internet. We would go to, you can just go to sketchup.com. Welcome to SketchUp. I just use the search function. Sometimes I can't find all the different things on the SketchUp website, so just use the search function. Go to 3D warehouse. And let's see this first one. Nope, that's not the one I want. Maybe even just type into Google, SketchUp 3D warehouse. There it is. Okay, so it's 3dwarehouse.sketchup.com if you want to go to the actual website. So basically, it's just a search engine. What are you looking for? Maybe I'm looking for just a door. I don't want to create my own door. Let's see what we've got for doors. Look at all these different doors that I can choose from. These are components that other people have created. We can take a look at them. Maybe I want to take a look at this one. I can click on its thumbnail. I can just look at it in an image. This one's also got a 3D preview. I can view it in 3D. Oh, I need to sign in. All right, let me sign in.
Oh, to do the 3D.
Yeah. I don't know why, but
Do we sign in with our same account that we
if
had?
you already created a Trimble
Yeah.
ID, yep,
Okay.
that'll be the same one.
Oh, okay.
If you haven't created a Trimble ID, we'll go ahead and do that today.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so I do want to do it in 3D. And once it loads up for us a little bit, now it's like a little mini SketchUp window, and I can go in there and take a look at it. I can zoom in real close. And I can just basically see if this is something that I'd like to bring into my model. Go back to all of the different ones here. So there are just tons and tons of doors that you can go and look through. There are also different tabs you can click up here. So right now I'm just in the models tab. You can look at catalogs. Different manufacturers might be putting up catalogs of doors. Some of these not quite what I'm looking for. I'm not really looking for an appliance, so it's not always the smartest thing. There are also collections. We'll learn about collections, I think, next week a little bit more. But these are other people who have added, they have a collection of doors that they like to use, so I can go in and browse and see all the different doors that they've saved down. And then finally, there's one called materials. So if somebody has a certain door material, they can upload that here as well. So that one's not necessarily a component, it's just a material.
Right.
So that's where we can get to it from the internet. But within SketchUp, there are 2 ways you can get to it from within SketchUp. The first one is actually in our default tray within the components panel. There's a little search bar right here that says 3D warehouse. I can just go ahead and search the 3D warehouse from right here. So if I search for a door here, they're just showing me a bunch of options for doors down here as well. I think it's a little bit harder to see them from this little
It's
view.
the same thing from the internet.
Yeah, and I can't maybe necessarily see everything that I want about it. So this is not my preferred option. But what's nice about this, you can also use this little drop down that's right next to the little house button. And this is just basically some different collection types that are in here. You can look for people and see what people are in here. So that might be the only plus for looking through the components panel. Otherwise, I don't really care for looking at it this way. I prefer to go up to window and 3D warehouse. Again, it might make you sign in here. But then it's basically the web browser inside of my SketchUp model. Looks just like we looked at on the internet. Type in door again, showing me all my options.
Wait a minute, where'd you go? I'm sorry.
Window up in your menu
Oh,
bar, and then 3D warehouse.
Oh, to open that, that's how you did it.
Yes.
You had to sign in.
Yeah, with the Trumbull.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you didn't create a Trimble ID yet, you'll want to go ahead and do that on SketchUp's website. That's the only way that you'll be able to actually browse through these things. I think I have instructions that, I think it's in the week 1, getting started in SketchUp. I believe, yes, you'll need a Trimble ID to access certain features of SketchUp. Go ahead and follow these instructions if you don't have that Trimble ID yet. You can use your Phoenix College email or your personal email. I don't think it really matters. It's free, so whichever one you'd like to use.
And so from here, we could download what we wanted into the SketchUp.
Correct. So let's say that I find something that I'd like to use in my model.
Yep.
I can either grab it directly from the thumbnail. There's a little download button in the lower right-hand corner. Or if you're inside of this, you've already been looking at it, there's also a download button from here. So if you find the one that you want, go ahead and hit the download button. It'll ask you if you'd like to load this directly into your SketchUp model. I'm going to say, yes, I do. And
There it is.
there it is. I can just go ahead and click to place it. And now I've got that door in my model and I didn't even have to model it.
Nice.
But now this acts exactly like any other component that I would have created. I can still double click into here and start to make edits. They might get a little bit, fancy. They might have several nested components, nested groups within each other. But I should be able to make any edits that I want. Let's see here. Yeah, there we go. If I wanted to paint this a different color, I could. Even if I wanted to push-pull certain things, I can basically do whatever I want to it. You're not going to change what's on the 3D warehouse. Once it's in your model, it's yours to use. You can do whatever you'd like with it. And then, once I do bring it into my model, you should see it in your components panel here. If you hit that home button, that tells you what components are currently in your model. So you can see my creepy ladies there, and now my door is also there. This lets you know, just by hitting that home button, that tells you every component that has been brought into your SketchUp model, whether you created it or if you brought it into the 3D warehouse. If it's in your model, it'll show up here. Now let's also just briefly talk about this area. Let's say I decided I don't want my door anymore. I can go ahead and just delete it from my model space. So now it's not actually in my model, but you see the door is still down there in my components panel that says it's still in my model. That's because I just simply deleted it from the model, but I didn't actually completely erase it from everywhere in my model. I can still drag this out to place a new door if I decided I do want it. If I'm like, nope, this door sucks, I don't want to see it ever again, I want to completely get rid of it from my model. It's a good idea to purge all of the components that you're no longer using. If you start to get a bunch of components stacked up over here in your model, that's going to slow your file down. So we wanna get rid of as many components as we can if we're not using them. We're gonna go to this little details arrow here on the right side, just next to the search bar for the 3D warehouse, and hit purge unused. Once I click that, now the door is no longer there. It does not exist in my model anymore. Yeah, what's up?
I got an example. A question. Example. Why does my component area look different than yours? Like, did I do something to it or not?
You're probably looking just at collections on the 3D warehouse still.
No. I'm saying like my component thing. It used to have the lady with the blue dress, and now.
Yeah, so you're just looking at things that are still on the 3D warehouse.
Oh.
Hit that home button, and that shows you what's in your model.
Oh.
So your lady's still
And
there.
what about the components? Like my component thing is messed up too. Like it won't open up. Is there a way to make it, like when I was making components, this is components right here?
Yeah, those are the ones.
Oh, that is the component area.
Those are the ones that are in there. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I feel so stupid.
No, you're good.
Never mind. Thank you.
You're fine.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I need more sleep. I know what it is. No, seriously, I'm working off fumes, so I know what you're
Okay, so that's how we download from the 3D warehouse. And literally there are so many things in the 3D warehouse.
Okay.
Let's say I'm looking for something super specific. Maybe I want a chair from the manufacturer Krug. I have no idea if Krug is in here. Let's just take a look. I can search for Krug chair. Search. Looky there, Krug does have some chairs on here that I might like. So maybe I'm designing something, my client says, I really love this Krug chair, I want that to be in my space. Look at that, somebody's already modeled it for us. Not guaranteeing that you'll find every single chair, table, thing out there. But I can go ahead and download that chair. Yes, I do want to bring it into my model. Boom, now I got a fancy Krug chair. I didn't have to do anything with it. I can double click into here to start editing it. Might have to go into a couple of nested components. Oh my goodness, this one's really fancy. There we go. And now let's say I want a different fabric. I can switch out the fabric. I know we haven't gotten too much into materials just yet. We just looked at adding glass to our bookcase. But we also have some different collections here. Is there one? Yep, there's one for carpet, fabrics, leathers, textiles. Some of the ugliest textiles I've ever seen, but what's that? What this terrible one on here?
I
Boom.
know, I tried to make it
I can just change it. I can do whatever I want to this chair now. And it's mine. I download it into my model. What you know? Now we're not gonna look too much into that. But you get the point.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm actually gonna go purge that right now because I don't actually want that. Oh my gosh, see, look at how many things that brought in. I only downloaded one chair and now I've got 7 different groups and components in here. That's gonna slow the heck down my model. So I'm gonna hit that little details arrow, purge unused, get rid of that stuff. Okay, let's say that I did create a component, maybe my table from exercise 3 or 4, whichever one that was. Let's say I really like that table and I want to bring it into my new model. We can do that. We can either copy and paste between SketchUp files. So I went ahead and already opened up my table. Something about SketchUp, you have to actually open a whole separate application window for it. I can't be within one window and switch back and forth between models. You have to actually have 2 separate SketchUp windows open. So if I've got that, I can just select my table here. Just Control-C, just normal copy for most computer functions. Go to my new file, Control-V, there it is. Didn't have to remodel my table or anything. It's now in here. exactly as I want it. But what you'll see is whenever I did that,
You just said Control C, Control V.
Control C,
And went
Control
into
V.
the next screen and said Control V.
yes.
Gotcha.
So whenever I do Control V, it just kind of brings it up like normal. I can place it wherever I like
Right.
at that point. If I do Control Shift V, well, let me see. I didn't like that. Oh no, sorry, SketchUp doesn't know Control Shift V. I'm thinking of another program. If I want it to paste in the exact same location between SketchUp files, I know exactly where this table is right now. I want it to be in that exact same place whenever I paste it into my new file. Again, just Control C to copy it from this other file, go to your new model, and then edit, paste in place. And now it's in the exact same place between the two files. I can also import entire SketchUp models into a new SketchUp file. It's going to be easy with this one since it's only the one table. We can go to File, Import,
Oh, yeah.
and where's my little dialog box? It's thinking. There it is. And then I can go find that SketchUp file that I want to import. And then there it is also. It lets me just place it. So if you, that will import an entire SketchUp model though. So if I had a bunch of other things inside of this exercise 4 file, it would have brought in all of those things. So just be aware, you can copy and paste individual items, but if you're importing, that's going to bring in the entire SketchUp model. Questions about anything we talked about so far? Okay. Realize I don't have my glasses on, I can't see. There we go. Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and get into this week's assignment. Let me switch out the recording.